There's a calm surrender to the rush of day, when the heat of the rolling wind can't be turned away.
Jonathan Antoine's story didn't end when the spotlight faded after Britain's Got Talent. In many ways, that's when it truly began. With a voice that drew comparisons to Pavarotti, he went from bullied schoolboy to overnight sensation. Jonathan was the kind of raw discovery that reality TV dreams are made of. For a moment, it seemed nothing could stop him. But behind the soaring notes was a young man battling shadows no audience could see. Join us as we tell you what really happened to Jonathan Antoine from BGT. Long before he became a household name, Jonathan was a quiet, sensitive boy who gravitated toward music as a natural language of expression. His parents and teachers noticed early on that his voice was different. While other children might belt out tunes without much refinement, Jonathan had an unusual timbre even as a child. By the age of 11, he began taking formal singing lessons, and it quickly became evident that he was not just another enthusiastic student, but a rare talent with the potential to become something extraordinary. His school years were shaped as much by hardship as by artistic growth. Jonathan was often bullied for his appearance and personality, and these experiences carved deep emotional scars. Yet, music became his shield and his comfort, offering him a sense of purpose and escape. At West Hatch High School in Chigwell, Jonathan met Jenny Ewington, a vocal coach, and Jeanette Brown, the head of music. These mentors saw beyond his awkward teenage exterior and recognized the raw, untamed brilliance in his voice. Under their guidance, Jonathan's potential blossomed. By the time his voice broke during adolescence, he was already mastering challenging pieces. At just 13, he performed Bring Him Home from Les Miserables at a local music festival, a performance that earned him the Young Musician of the Year title. This was a defining moment, signaling that his future lay firmly in music. The experience also gave him his first taste of how deeply he could move audiences, even when weighed down by self-doubt. Encouraged by his teachers, Jonathan auditioned for major conservatories in London. Remarkably, he was accepted into all of them, eventually choosing the Royal Academy of Music to refine his training. For most teenagers, such an achievement would have been overwhelming, but Jonathan carried both pride and insecurity into this next chapter. Music was becoming his destiny, but he was not yet aware of the life-changing stage that awaited him in 2012 when he would come on television and millions of people would be watching him. This early foundation of talent set the stage for the moment that would ultimately change Jonathan's life. When Jonathan Antoine appeared on Britain's Got Talent in 2012, he was just 17 years old. Standing beside his school friend Charlotte Giaconelli, he looked as though the spotlight was an intimidating glare rather than a welcoming embrace. Viewers could sense his apprehension as he introduced himself to the judges. Simon Cowell, always sharp-eyed and quick to judge appearances, raised his eyebrows skeptically. From the looks, Jonathan did not fit the typical mold of a star in the making. But as soon as he opened his mouth and sang the opening lines of The Prayer, time seemed to stop. The tenor voice that poured out of him stunned both the judges and the audience, sending a ripple of shock and awe through the auditorium. It was one of those rare television moments where perception is flipped entirely in an instant. Simon, who initially looked doubtful, leaned forward in disbelief. Amanda Holden and Alesha Dixon exchanged astonished glances, and David Walliams smiled as though witnessing something historic. Jonathan's rich, operatic voice intertwined with Charlotte's soprano created a duet that felt almost cinematic. Within minutes, the pair went from unknown teenagers to viral sensations. Clips of their audition spread online, gathering millions of views within days. Jonathan's life was transformed overnight. He went from being bullied at school and retreating into himself to being celebrated across Britain and beyond. Strangers stopped him on the street to praise his voice. Headlines hailed him as the new Pavarotti and the boy with the golden voice. Yet, behind the newfound fame, Jonathan struggled to process the sudden shift. The adoration was overwhelming, and while Charlotte seemed to embrace the limelight with more ease, Jonathan often looked startled by it. Though his talent was undeniable, his inner world was not yet ready to catch up with the rapid pace of his fame. The pairing of Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli was a happy accident that blossomed into one of the most memorable partnerships in Britain's Got Talent history. The duo, dubbed Jonathan and Charlotte, captured hearts not only with their voices, but with their evident friendship. They had met as classmates at West Hatch High School, bonded by their love of music. Charlotte, confident and outgoing, complemented Jonathan's shyness. She often acted as his anchor, encouraging him to step forward when nerves threatened to consume him. Their chemistry was unpolished but genuine, and that authenticity resonated with millions of viewers. After their successful run on BGT, the pair signed a recording contract with Simon Cowell's Psycho label. It was an extraordinary leap for two teenagers still finding their place in the world. Their debut album, Together, was released later in 2012, filled with operatic and crossover classics. The record reached audiences worldwide, cementing their place as rising stars of the classical crossover genre. In 2013, they followed up with Perhaps Love, another collection that showcased their growth as performers. For Jonathan, however, the experience was a mixture of triumph and struggle. On stage and in the studio, he delivered awe-inspiring performances, but behind the scenes, he wrestled with insecurities. The partnership, while fruitful, also began to highlight their individual differences. Charlotte was drawn to a more contemporary musical path, while Jonathan was increasingly rooted in the operatic tradition. Their voices blended beautifully, but their artistic visions were not entirely aligned. Fans adored their friendship as much as their music, seeing them as proof that authenticity and talent could break through the noise of modern pop culture. Yet by 2014, it became clear that their professional journeys would separate. And as they acknowledged these diverging dreams, the inevitable decision to pursue solo careers brought both new opportunities and daunting challenges. In February 2014, Jonathan and Charlotte announced their decision to part ways professionally. It was not a bitter split, nor was it driven by scandal or personal conflict. Rather, it was an acknowledgement that each had a unique artistic voice that could not fully flourish within the confines of a duo. Both had been offered solo recording contracts with Sony Classical, and both felt it was time to step forward independently. For Jonathan, this was both exhilarating and terrifying. He no longer had Charlotte's reassuring presence at his side, no longer had someone to share the burden of expectation. Going solo meant more than just singing alone, it meant discovering who he truly was as an artist. His debut solo album, Tenore, released in October 2014, was an ambitious project that placed him firmly in the operatic tradition. It featured classics such as Panis Angelicus and La Donna Immobile, and showcased the power and maturity of his voice. Critics praised his technical skill and emotional depth, noting that he had successfully transitioned from a reality show star into a serious tenor. The album's success solidified his reputation as more than a novelty act born of a television talent show, but the transition also brought its challenges. Without the safety net of a partner, Jonathan faced greater scrutiny. Every performance, every public appearance was dissected. For someone who already struggled with self-esteem, this could be a harrowing experience. Behind Jonathan's professional triumphs, there was a history of struggles. Long before he stood on the BGT stage, he had endured years of bullying. In those years, music had been his refuge, but it could not erase the pain. Even after finding fame, those memories continued to haunt him. He has spoken openly in interviews about how the bullying contributed to periods of depression and self-doubt. Fame, while offering validation, did not magically cure these struggles. In fact, it often made them more complex. The pressure to live up to the image of the boy with the golden voice was immense. Social media, while a source of adoration, also brought harsh criticism. Strangers commented on his appearance, his weight, his shyness, as though his artistry were secondary to how he looked. For a sensitive young man still forming his identity, this was a heavy burden. Jonathan's physical transformation was a significant chapter in his post-BGT life. For much of his early career, his weight was a constant topic of public discussion. While his voice earned universal praise, his appearance was often scrutinized, sometimes cruelly. Jonathan, who had long struggled with body image, internalized some of this criticism. In recent years, however, he began making conscious changes, not to satisfy critics, but to improve his own well-being. Today, he has lost several pounds through a combination of healthier eating and gentle exercise, particularly walking. Jonathan has emphasized that his motivation was self-driven. He wanted to feel better physically, to have more stamina for performances, and to care for his long-term health. This distinction was important. He made clear that his journey was about personal choice, not conforming to external pressure. Fans responded positively, applauding not just the weight loss but the confidence and vitality that seemed to accompany it. Even after losing weight, Jonathan didn't forget that it was his musical talent that fans loved. He didn't neglect his voice. For Jonathan, this transformation was not about becoming someone new, but about reclaiming himself. After his weight loss, the audience noted Jonathan showed more confident stage presence. With this new attention on his looks, Jonathan also saw some whispers about his personal life. While Jonathan has always been celebrated for his music, his personal life has also sparked curiosity, particularly regarding romance. For someone who entered the public eye as a teenager, questions about dating and relationships have followed him almost from the start of his career. Early on, much speculation swirled around his partnership with Charlotte Giaconelli. Their chemistry on stage was undeniable, but Jonathan was quick to shut down any suggestion that their relationship extended beyond music. He described the rumors as creepy, insisting that they were like siblings rather than romantic partners. The first confirmed glimpse into Jonathan's romantic life came a few years later when he revealed he was in a relationship with a Canadian woman named Michelle Doucet. Unlike the rumors of the past, this was a love Jonathan himself spoke about with warmth and candor. He shared that they had met online through a web chat service and that what began as digital conversations soon blossomed into something more meaningful. Despite the geographical distance, they nurtured their bond through frequent video calls and visits. Jonathan often described Michelle as the light of my life, a phrase that underscored just how deeply she impacted him. Their relationship was even a source of artistic inspiration, with Jonathan crediting her as a muse for his 2016 album, Believe. Still, Jonathan has always been careful about how much of his private world he reveals. He seems to prefer keeping romance behind the curtain, allowing his music to remain at the forefront of his public identity. And while his love life offered glimpses of warmth and stability, Jonathan's music remained the constant thread driving his career toward remarkable solo achievements. Jonathan's solo career blossomed gradually but steadily. After Tenore, he released Believe in 2016, an album that showcased not only his operatic power but also his versatility. It was a blend of classical, sacred, and crossover pieces, reflecting his desire to reach diverse audiences while staying true to his roots. The album demonstrated his growing confidence as both a performer and an interpreter of music. By 2020, Jonathan released Going the Distance, a project that arrived during the turbulence of a global pandemic. While the world faced uncertainty, Jonathan's music offered solace. The album mixed well-loved classics with unexpected choices. His interpretations were deeply personal, reflecting not just technical skill, but a lifetime of emotional experiences. Fans embraced the work, seeing in it not just the voice of a prodigy, but the vision of an artist who had come into his own. Touring and live performances also became an integral part of his career. Jonathan traveled internationally, performing in the United States and Europe, bringing his music to audiences who had first discovered him on YouTube clips years earlier. This expanding reach not only deepened Jonathan's impact as an artist, but also laid the foundation for the financial stability and future possibilities that would follow. While Jonathan is not the kind of artist who flaunts wealth or chases celebrity trappings, his journey has nonetheless translated into significant financial stability. Various outlets estimate his net worth to be between $1.5 million and $5 million, a range that reflects the steady success of his albums, concert tours, and special performances. Record deals following his BGT rise, combined with his solo releases, have been central to his financial standing. In addition, appearances on international stages have bolstered both his income and his global profile. Unlike many reality TV discoveries who fade into obscurity, Jonathan has sustained a career by cultivating a dedicated fan base that eagerly follows his work. Yet Jonathan's approach to money and fame remains grounded. He has often emphasized that music is not about wealth for him, but about connection, healing, and artistic exploration. Looking forward, Jonathan's path appears both promising and multifaceted. There is strong speculation that Jonathan may delve deeper into composition, perhaps writing original pieces that reflect his journey. International collaborations also seem a likely direction, given the global reach of his audience and his previous forays into cross-genre performances. In interviews, Jonathan has hinted at wanting to bring classical crossover music to younger audiences, breaking down barriers of accessibility. As his career continued to flourish, Jonathan's reflections turned inward, leading to a revelation that reshaped how he understood both his art and himself. In 2022, Jonathan shared a deeply personal diagnosis on Instagram that reshaped his understanding of himself. He was on the autism spectrum. For many, such a revelation might have been unsettling, but for Jonathan, it offered clarity. Throughout his life, he had sensed that he experienced the world differently. Social interactions were often exhausting, certain environments felt overwhelming, and he struggled with a sense of being out of step with others. The diagnosis reframed these experiences, allowing him to see them not as personal failings, but as part of his neurological identity. Jonathan has spoken candidly about how the diagnosis was both illuminating and unsettling. On one hand, it explained why he had always felt different, why he had difficulty navigating fame's social demands, and why music had become such a vital outlet. On the other hand, it forced him to reevaluate past experiences through a new lens. Publicly sharing this aspect of his life deepened his bond with fans. Many admired his bravery in discussing autism openly, breaking down stigma, and showing that being on the spectrum did not limit one's ability to succeed. Where celebrities usually try to become the image of perfection, Jonathan didn't hesitate to show his true self. For Jonathan, the autism diagnosis was not an ending but a beginning. It gave him tools to understand himself better, manage his mental health more effectively, and move forward with greater self-compassion. But just as Jonathan was finding clarity within himself, another profound change was about to reshape how the world saw him. This time, he was not going to neglect his physical health. Jonathan did not allow his struggles to define his story. He sought help, leaned on his family and close friends, and gradually learned to speak openly about mental health. By sharing his experiences, he not only found healing for himself, but also offered hope to others facing similar battles. He has supported campaigns that promote kindness, self-acceptance, and awareness of neurodiversity. At events, he frequently reminds audiences that vulnerability is not weakness, but a form of strength. Teachers and parents often share stories of how his resilience has inspired young people facing bullying or self-doubt. For Jonathan, these moments of connection are just as meaningful as standing ovations. An outspoken supporter for the rights and well-being of young people, Jonathan has recently co-authored a children's book titled Jonathan and the Porcupine. Its aim was to help kids cope with and overcome the effects of bullying. He has also appeared in the documentary Anxious Nation, which explores anxiety and mental health challenges in modern society. Before this, Jonathan had also voiced a strong desire to make music more accessible for children from disadvantaged backgrounds, recognizing from his own life how profoundly it can change a young person's path. Though these initiatives are still in early stages, his commitment and outlook clearly show someone determined to use his influence with purpose and responsibility. Whether through new albums, global tours, or advocacy for mental health and autism awareness, Jonathan Antoine's journey promises to be as inspiring as the story that has brought him this far.